As you know, ANZ is the premier sponsor for Building Nations 2023. So please welcome ANZ's Head of Institutional Relationships and Corporate Finance, Stephen Boyce.
Tēnā koutou. Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephen Boyce, and I'm the Head of Institutional Relationships and Corporate Finance at ANZ. Welcome to Infrastructure New Zealand's Building Nations Conference for 2023. I want to acknowledge the mana whenua o Tautahi, Christchurch, the Minister for Infrastructure, the Honourable Dr. Megan Woods, the Leader of the Opposition, Christopher Luxon, Infrastructure New Zealand Chair, Margaret Devlin, and members of the Board, Infrastructure New Zealand Chief Executive Nick Leggett, and other dignitaries here this morning. Thank you to Ngāi Tuahuriri for the mihi whakatau to start the day. This is an important conference, a rare opportunity for a wide range of senior leaders and decision makers from the infrastructure industry to come together to advance our ambition for New Zealand's infrastructure, the very foundation of New Zealand's well-being. However, ambition alone is not enough. The theme of Building Nations this year, as you know, is from ambition to action. It is a timely challenge to the industry. It's easy to bemoan the infrastructure deficit, commission a business case, or announce future investment. Far harder to commit to getting shovels in the ground and deliver a successful project. The delivery environment remains challenging. Rampant inflation, high interest rates, skill shortages, and the threat of recession looming on the horizon. Recent extreme weather events remind us of the need to maintain and build infrastructure that is resilient to climate change and to invest to reduce emissions. To achieve these goals, New Zealand needs both public and private sector involvement and investment in infrastructure. Collaboration between central and local government, private investors and iwi is essential if we are to meet our national ambitions. Building Nations continues to be an important forum to bring these six sectors together for a common purpose. We must not forget that New Zealand infrastructure industry operates in a global market for capital and human resources. Industry players have a choice about where to deploy their assets, so we need to ensure New Zealand is an attractive place to invest. Talking to some of our offshore customers, we are concerned that New Zealand has fallen down the attractiveness scale. This is an area where we must do better. Improving our position will require input from both public and private sectors. So there's a lot to talk about over the next 2 days, and ANZ is incredibly proud to continue as premier sponsor of Building Nations for another year, which in fact will be our 14th year of sponsorship. We commend Nick Leggett and his team for putting together an impressive agenda covering some of the key issues facing the infrastructure sector: delivery, pipeline certainty, funding and financing, and of course the thorny issue of water reform. How do we build for climate resilience, deliver a zero carbon future and invest in sufficient renewable energy to keep the lights on? We are pleased to welcome back ANZ Chief Economist Sharon Zollner to help explain how the economic environment will help or hinder our ambitions. We're also pleased to hear from Prime Ministers of Infrastructure, Transport and Local Government, the Leader of the Opposition and a number of opposition spokespeople. Anyone would think there's a general election in 129 days. Before I leave you to enjoy these speakers, I want to give you an example of how we need to think differently when it comes to building infrastructure for climate resilience. The Auckland anniversary weekend floods and the terrible destruction of Cyclone Gabrielle has given us pause as we contemplate how we can build or rebuild infrastructure that accommodates our changing climate. There's been a noticeable shift in our natural world, and record-breaking weather events are likely to be the norm rather than the exception. Rather than building back bigger, stronger grey infrastructure, we need to consider the positive benefits of nature-based green infrastructure projects. A fantastic example of this is Te Awaunga, Oakley Creek in Auckland. It runs 15 kilometres from the suburb of Hillsborough through Mount Roscoe, Owairaka and Waterview before entering the Waitemata Harbour. Originally a swamp, the stream's catchment was drained and channeled, first for farming and later for housing. More than 100 homes along the stream were frequently at risk of flood. About 10 years ago, working closely with local iwi and community groups, Auckland Council's Healthy Waters team came up with an enlightened redevelopment plan. Along a 1.3 kilometre section of the stream, the existing concrete channel was replaced with a wider, naturalised stream channel and planted with over 70,000 native plants, trees, ferns and flaxes. Many of these were grown in a plant nursery set up at a local school. As much as possible, the project was designed and built by a local community for the local community, with over 30 unemployed local youth being trained and employed during construction and later to maintain the project. This work has increased the stream's capacity whilst also restoring its ability to soak water naturally into the ground. As a result, there was a decrease in the flooding risk to nearby homes. That didn't mean the area avoided flooding in January, however. Some homes were inundated, but there was significantly less damage than would have previously occurred. Auckland Council is now looking at using Te Awaonga project as a blueprint for future flood-resistant projects and has 15 similar projects planned as part of its accelerated Making Space for Water plan. The cost of this plan alone has been estimated at $1 billion, a clear indication of the scale of investment needed in climate-resilient projects in the years ahead. This creates the opportunity for private capital to be involved through impact investments. Green bonds, like the $500 million 30-year bond issue ANZ jointly arranged for Auckland Council in 2020, are a great way to raise capital for new and existing projects with environmental benefits. By building back green, we help ensure the sustainable growth of our cities and towns, whilst also enhancing the natural environment and improving our standard of living. Now, we have some photos of the project courtesy of Auckland Council for you to look at. And that is what good infrastructure is about, providing a foundation to improve our standard of living. On that note, I'd like to invite the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Chris Hipkins, to share some of his thoughts. Thank you. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.